Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're looking right past those shiny screens and slick Silicon Valley product launches. You know the ones. We're going to investigate the very real environmental, human, and societal costs of artificial intelligence. We're constantly sold this idea that AI is just a seamless, weightless cloud of pure innovation. But is that actually true? Well, let's find out.
Okay, here's our roadmap. We're going to quickly hit 5 main stops today. First, the illusion of clean AI, then the invisible ghost workers, the epistemic apocalypse, which is a big fancy term we will unpack shortly, black boxes and silent bias, and finally, the real corporate threat.
So, starting right off with number 1, the illusion of clean AI and the actual physical cost of the cloud. We really need to confront this myth that the cloud is some weightless, clean, almost spiritual frontier of innovation. I mean, just look at the stark contrast here. On the left, we're sold this beautiful promise of a clean, net zero future. But the industrial reality on the right, it requires some incredibly aggressive physical exploitation. Listen, AI doesn't live in a magical cloud. It's built out of massive concrete data centers, open-pit lithium mines for rare earth metals, and quite frankly, a staggering amount of burning coal. To put this physical reality into perspective, think about this number right here, half a liter. Environmental data scientist Dr. Elena Vance points out something absolutely wild. A single, brief generative AI conversation, just you asking a model to write an email or generate a funny picture, can consume up to half a liter of fresh water. And that water is used exclusively just to keep the servers cool. When you multiply that by billions of queries every single day, well, researchers note that we are literally burning our physical reality to sustain an artificial one. And the sheer scale of the thermal physics involved here is it's staggering. We aren't just talking about a few extra servers humming away in a basement. We're talking about global AI energy consumption projected to completely overtake entire sovereign nations, like Germany or Japan, by the end of this decade. To keep up with this insane demand, tech conglomerates are actually quietly signing contracts to revive dying fossil fuel plants. So the foundational dirty secret here is that this whole technology boom is currently built on massive ecological regression. Moving on to part 2, the invisible ghost workers and the human cost of these supposedly clean algorithms. Let's see how the illusion of AI just magically learning all by itself completely hides a massive human toll. The absolute crucial point to understand here is that algorithms don't automatically know what's safe or appropriate. They have to be taught. And to teach them, an invisible army of human beings has to sit there and tag all the evil, dangerous, and illegal content so the AI knows how to block it. This quote from Samuel, a former content moderator, really hits hard. He says, when the tech companies talk about their clean safety guardrails, they are standing on our psychological graves. Behind every safe AI output, there is an invisible human being whose mind had to be subjected to horrifying, traumatic content just to build those guardrails. Researchers actually describe this setup as an assembly line of human misery. It's essentially a modern form of digital colonialism. You've got the intellectual elite in the West designing these shiny architectures, while an underpaid, unprotected working class in places like Kenya, the Philippines, and Latin America are left to sift through the digital waste. We're talking about people paid less than $2 an hour, working brutal 8-hour shifts, processing the absolute worst things humanity has ever filmed. It's a dark, structural reality hiding right behind that slick, user-friendly interface. Which brings us to our third section, the epistemic apocalypse and the erosion of objective truth. This is where we reach a societal breaking point, where AI permanently shatters that foundational human premise that seeing is believing. For centuries, right, a photo or a video was the ultimate receipt of truth. You saw it, so it happened. But now we're facing what's called the liar's dividend. Cognitive cybernetics expert Professor Marcus Chen notes that the worst danger here isn't simply that you or I might fall for a fake video. No, it's actually much worse. When everything can be perfectly faked, anyone can claim that real factual evidence of their own corruption is just an AI deepfake. Oh, that video of me taking a bribe, obviously a deepfake. When the public can literally no longer trust their own eyes, objective truth dies, and total public paralysis follows. And the scary part? The spread of all this untruth is entirely automated. Bot farms execute these 3 steps endlessly, around the clock. Step 1, extract your social media data. Step 2, generate a psychological profile on you. And step 3, write hyper-personalized propaganda tailored perfectly to your deepest personal fears. Why?
Because these systems are designed to maximize engagement. They don't have a moral compass, they just follow the math. And researchers have found that the math learns pretty quickly that the absolute shortest path to monetization is content that sparks unadulterated rage and terror. Okay, moving right along to section 4, black boxes and silent bias. Let's peel back the next layer and examine how AI dictates life-altering decisions through what software engineers call black boxes. Think for a second about who gets a housing loan, who stays in prison, or who gets life-saving medical care. Increasingly, an AI is making those calls. And people just assume these computer models are strictly neutral, right? They're just math. But civil rights attorney LaToya Brown explains a really harsh truth here. AI is trained on historical data. So if you train a system on decades of discriminatory policing or biased loan approvals, the AI learns those prejudices perfectly. As she points out so well, it doesn't eliminate bias, it launders it. It basically covers systemic historical inequalities in this pristine veneer of mathematical authority. All of this builds into this inescapable loop. You start with historically biased data, you feed it into deep learning algorithms, and boom, you get automated discrimination. But step 4, that is the real trap here, black box denial. The internal logic of these neural networks is so intensely complex that even the programmers themselves can't explain exactly how a specific decision was reached. So standard debugging? Totally obsolete. We are essentially building a system where the judges are just lines of code. There is literally no one to hold accountable, and citizens have absolutely no right to appeal. Crazy, right? And that brings us to our final stop, Section 5, the real corporate threat and distraction by design. Let's separate the sci-fi speculation from the ground truth and move way past that Hollywood panic about sentient killer robots. I mean, you hear it all the time from tech billionaires, right? They say we should be terrified of a hypothetical future AGI, artificial general intelligence, waking up and turning against humanity. But we seriously need to ask ourselves, is this existential hype actually just a brilliant smokescreen? Because instead of future sci-fi threats, Dr. Vance argues we should be looking at the very real, mundane crises happening right under our noses today. Panicking about some Terminator scenario 50 years out achieves 2 things for these companies. First, it makes their current AI products sound infinitely powerful and godlike. But second, and way more importantly, it completely distracts regulators from the immediate realities. We're talking unprecedented copyright theft, the total erosion of digital privacy, severe labor exploitation, and $3 or $4 trillion corporate entities quietly monopolizing all global computing infrastructure. The real threat isn't a rogue machine. It's unchecked corporate power. When you really boil down everything we've learned from our sources today, it comes down to this one core concept. Artificial intelligence is a mirror. It doesn't magically pull ideas out of the ether. It reflects our own historical data, our human habits, and our deep socioeconomic structures. If the reflection we see in that mirror is dark, terrifying, or predatory, well, it's not because a rogue machine turned against us. It's simply because we have successfully automated our own worst human instinct. And these tools are only going to grow more powerful. The future of intelligence is undeniably artificial, but the responsibility for its darkness, its biases, and its exploitation, that remains entirely, devastatingly human. So, considering everything we've explored today, the burning physical resources, the ghost workers, the death of objective truth, and the massive monopolization of power, we have to leave you with one final question. As we look into this digital mirror, who is actually pulling the strings behind the glass? Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer, and as always, keep asking questions.